So I spent some amazing time with two great cameras. One, the Z9, and the other one, the Canon R5. I took these cameras out for some time outside around the same time in the same location, and I had both these bodies with me. I used the Canon with the 85 1.2. If I've already spoken about that in the last few videos, then you already know that I love the 85 1.2. And if you want to see the review of 85mm 1.2, you will find it either here or there. And also the Nikon Z9 with the 105 1.4. Right now what I have here is the 35 1.8 attached to the Z9 body, but I use the 105 1.8 1.4 most of the times outside. So they were pretty comparable setup, and I'll tell you, although they're priced differently, and the Z9 is a flagship, it's a unibody design. The R5 is not a flagship, it's not a unibody design, and the R5 is about $1,500 US dollars cheaper. I think they meet at the sensor level. Yes, the Z9 has a stacked sensor and a newer sensor. It doesn't have a shutter and all that, but both are similarly. They both have similar resolving power, right? So both the 45 plus megapixel sensors both can do 8K. Yes, the Nikon can do 8K raw. And the Canon R5 can only do 8K 30, not in raw, and cannot do it for unlimited period of time. It can overheat and all that is true. Having said that, for most people, you're not going to use 8K. For most people who are going to pick up these cameras are going to use them for photo shooting. The Canon R5 is a celebrated, truly amazing photo camera. The Nikon Z9 is a really good photo camera, a sport shooter cameras, or wildlife shooters cameras. It's not only a video camera. So 8K does not, just the fact that it can do 8K and it can do raw, does not make it not compete with R5. Yes, the 1.5 thousand US dollar price difference is something, but then you get that much more with the Nikon. I just want to speak non-technically today. I want to speak from real life and from real life experience, and how I felt using the cameras. And this is going to be therefore a subjective and qualitative discussion on these two cameras. And I think these kind of discussions make a lot of sense, at least for me, in real world situations. So if I have to start, where do I start? Do I start with this technical spec chart? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to straight tell you that um, I felt the weight of the 85 uh, of the Z9 with the 105 1.4. It was significantly heavy. I did not, although the Canon R5 with the 85 1.2 is heavy, when you carry it, the Canon feels lighter. With this setup, the Canon feels lighter on the shoulder if you're using a strap. However, when you're shooting it, when you're actually picking the camera up and shooting it, right, that's a different experience. It is at that point when the Nikon actually feels better because of how well it is designed, right? It is beautifully designed. The button placements, the ease of use, the access to different features with through buttons outside the body, me not having to go inside the menu to find something and discover something. It's just far more hassle free. That's one thing that stands out about the Z9 significantly. And I'll come back to Canon and how Canon wins where it wins. The second thing is, after a whole days of shooting, um, the Nikon can go on almost for another day or half a day at least. The battery life is fantastic, especially if you're shooting photos mostly. If you're also recording videos intermittently, you'll not see a difference. But if you're spending a lot of time recording videos, yes, you can probably use one of these batteries in a day. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's significant amount of juice in this Nikon battery. It's tremendous amount of juice. Okay, and so battery life and ease of using. So battery life takes care of all those worries from my head. Like, I don't have to worry, am I carrying a different another battery? Do I have to put it on charge? now those concerns come to my mind, right, when I'm shooting. And when I'm shooting, wonderful experience. The third big thing about the Nikon is when I'm shooting it, there are, you see, there are two card slots. Both are CF Express card slots, which means I can use same kind of cards, and I don't have to worry, right? The downside of that is that Express and XQD cards are expensive cards. So if you want to spend money on one good card, and if you want to cheap out on the other one, you don't have that option of the Canon with the Nikon Z9. But then the Z9 is a premium camera, it's a flagship camera. So I think it is often assumed that the audience who's going to buy this camera will not cheap out, will not go sort of try and save money on just one card. But then I'd like to cheap out and just have one very fast card. The other one sort of not so expensive, not so fast card. The Canon, on the other hand, has exactly that, and that's why it's sort of priced at the mid range, right, at 3,800 US dollars. The Canon has one CF Express card and B type, and one fast normal SD card, right? So yes, there are two different card types. That is a problem for a lot of people, because the recording speed, this file saving speed is not the same, it's dissimilar. So that could be a problem for a lot of people, and I understand that. But having said that, this kind of deal works for me personally. Now, what really works for the Canon is the beauty of its autofocus. It's how do I put it? For portraiture, this is amazing. It never fails to detect the eye. I have to remember that I also used the 85 1.2, which is very fast, very bright in low light conditions. So wherever I took the Canon, it never failed me. It was wonderful with this 85 1.2. I have not used the Canon R5 with any other lens than the 85 1.2, so I cannot tell you how the mileage will vary if you use another lens. But let me tell you, this is not the fastest lens. Okay, this makes decent amount of noise um, when the lens is trying to autofocus. I don't think this is the fastest lens in terms of the motor power. I think that the camera's capability to make a lens focus, however, is supreme, and which is where I think Canon R5 does exceedingly well. The reason why it's a favorite of so many photographers after 2 years, and also videographers after 2 years, is because the autofocus performance is brilliant. The colors of this camera is wonderful. Why where I have a problem with the Canon is the way the menu is designed, the how the body feels. Honestly, the body feels cheap for almost a $4,000 US dollar camera. I think they should have used better materials. It just feels slightly cheap than how I would like it to be. Compare this with anything from Nikon, even the Z30, Z50, anything except the ZFC, anything from Nikon feels far way more premium. Okay, the built like tanks, the beautifully built, beautiful to look at. um, Clearly very good quality paint, very good quality rubber on these bodies, including the Z9. The Canon, not so much. uh, I do not like the fact that the on off button is on the left side. I don't like the fact that for everything you have to go inside this mode button. So here's this mode button. The R5 does not have a PSM dial, and inside this mode button, you can move from photo to video, and then you can also shift from manual to aperture priority to shutter priority, which means that the mode button is very important. And I don't want a single button to be doing so much. I really don't want a single button to be doing so much. I would like different buttons to take up different jobs so that I can remember, and it becomes faster. So when a single button does so much, it's basically 3 or 4 steps. But when a single button does one single thing, it's one step, which is my reason to sort of not like this sort of implementation that much, because I think this is supposed to be a fast shooters camera. this is a fast camera, but some of these layouts make the camera slow down. Well, not the camera, but the photographer slow down a bit. Overall, I would say the autofocus capability of the R5 is actually slightly better. I felt so. Okay, I cannot objectively tell you. The hit rates are almost same. Okay, when I looked at the files, the hit rates are almost same, but it felt as if the autofocus of, especially when it comes to portraiture and eye human eye detection, the R5 felt better in more difficult, trickier conditions when there's object in front of the subject, maybe someone is crossing, or there are a couple of pillars in front of the subject, or it's really bad light, low light. In those situations, I think the R5 did about 5 to 10% better than the Z9, surprisingly. But since then, the Z9 has gotten a firmware update which has actually improved the low light autofocus of the Z9, has made the camera far more attentive to the subject and not to the distraction. And there are features that the Z9 received just a few days back. So I think now if I go out and shoot with the Z9, I think my experience is going to be very different, and I'm going to do that video pretty soon. What I particularly like about the Z9 is that yeah, also you have to remember, I'll come back to the point I was going to talk about. You have to remember I was using an F mount 105 1.4 adapted to the Z9, so that may have some effect. I'm sure it has some effect. It's not the direct native Z mount lens, although it's a Nikon lens. Now what I really like about the Nikon is also the fact that, you know, there's a white balance button here, there's a quality file quality button here, uh, there's a dedicated mode button just to shift between, manual and aperture priority and shutter priority. uh, you have your shooting burst shooting button here, so if you want to change your burst shooting speed from single shot to maybe 10 frames per second or 20 frames per second, you can do that here. It's very handy. But most importantly, this button around this switch around the display button, that is amazing. The way you can quickly shift between photo and video is fantastic. The fact that you have three custom buttons at the front of the camera here, right here, that is again something. It's Nikon specialty, and it is, I cherish this, and therefore overall I would say it's also an amazing camera to shoot with while holding it vertically. So overall I would say that if someone wants a complete camera, the Z9 is that camera. Don't forget, the video capabilities of the Z9 far exceeds that of the R5. Although the R5 does 8K, the kind of raw video capability the Z9 has, no one has right now in the market. I mean, no one has, because it reads directly from the sensor, and without the information getting demosaiced uh, through a smart guesswork that camera softwares do. So essentially, you get completely lossless data when you shoot in NRAW, and which is why Red is suing Nikon. And I really want Nikon to continue to give us what they're giving in the form of Tico RAW and NRAW. So what Nikon can do with RAW and with 8K 60 and 4K 120, those colors, oh my god, I don't think no one comes close. No one probably will come close anytime soon. Canon cannot compare with that. Nikon have recently added great features like the ones you have on Sony, where you can, Sony has clear zoom, right? So Nikon has this feature now where you just move uh, the ring, focus ring of a lens, any lens, whether it's a zoom lens or a prime lens, and you can actually digitally zoom in to a 4K and a 1080p image video without any loss in image quality. That's basically unlocking Z9, unlocking the power of the full 8K sensor, and applying that while digitally zooming in. So, and there are plenty more. So overall, the Z9 is a far more complete camera, which will receive. They have already received. It has already received three firmware updates, two firmware updates, in fact, and I think that within less than a year, and the Z9 will keep receiving more firmware updates. It is a flagship camera. It is going to get that attention. So if you get a used Z9 in the price of a new R5, go for the Z9. Even if you don't get it used, even if you get buy a brand new Z9, you're just going to this camera is going to grow. Is this camera is going to grow into a much better something. The R5, I think, sadly, we're hearing about R6 version 2 Mark 2, and also, therefore, very soon the R5 Mark 2. I do not think that we're going to see a lot more firmware updates on the R5, and most of the firmware updates on the R5 have been about fixing the heating issues when it comes to video. Um, Instead of improving the capabilities of the R5, it's been bug fixes. So that way, I think R5 has been a far more static camera, and I don't see it becoming significantly better in near future. So definitely, if you're going for R5, definitely go for a used R5. I wouldn't really ask you to recommend you to go for a brand new R5. I would say go for a used R5, less used but used R5. Check the seller's credentials, or buy from a good used second-hand gear seller, and then uh, I I'll say that save up the money and invest in the kind of lenses that Canon really wants you to buy. Those are extremely premium, extremely high quality f2.8 or f2 zooms, or the 1.2 primes. That's where your money should go. Overall, these are two fantastic cameras. The R5 is more of a photo shooter's camera. The video features are not that capable. They're okay, but not that capable. Even when you are able to shoot the videos, it's difficult to edit Canon R5's best files on any video editor. That's not the case with the Z9. The Z9 is a very, very competent video camera, along with being a fantastic sport shooter and wildlife photography camera overall. So, one more thing before I go. The R5 begins its ISO journey at 64. That's not true for, I'm sorry, the Z9 begins its ISO journey at 64. That's not true for R5, which tells us the Z9 is likely to have a much better dynamic range in its files than what you get from the R5. I'll do a dynamic range and video and file quality test between the 45 megapixel plus resolution sensors from the R5 and the Z9 very soon. So uh, look for that, stick around for that. If you like this kind of content, do subscribe, do like this video. That helps the channel and helps me a lot, really, and really encourages me. So help the channel, subscribe if you like this video, and I'm going to see you very soon with another one. If you want to watch the review of Nikon 105 1.4, click here or here. Similarly, if you want to watch the review of Canon 1.85 1.2, watch the review, go into the channel and you'll see, find that video. So I'm going to see you very soon with another one. It's been great. Okay. I'm going to see you very soon with another video. See you soon with another video.